Hey guys, Frostman here. It's been a little while since I've done a video. I've been kind of busy, doing life and whatnot. But I wanted to touch base on one of my more later projects, more really just kind of toying around with project. But at any rate, um, I picked up a Stanley Fatmax, 450 amp, um, kind of a roadside box. Um, my initial thoughts when I wanted it was it's a jump box, has an air compressor in it. That was kind of the idea with it initially. Then I got distracted. Um, so it kind of turned into my little camping power box. So right out of the box, it comes with a uh, cigarette lighter, a 500 milliamp USB. It has a nifty little LED on the front, jumper cables, air compressor, and yeah, and a regular cigarette lighter plug-in, which was fine and dandy, but that's kind of where I got a little bit more distracted. Um, Wanted to be able to take it camping with me and kind of use it for what have you, lights, charging cell phones and whatnot. Um, Initially, the more I was kind of thinking about doing this video, the less I wanted to do a video and more I just wanted to just put it into plain text. Um, there's a few things that I don't like about this box. First off, and it has nothing to do with what its intended purpose was. The USB plug, it's only 500 milliamp. Uh, it's not the world's worst thing in the world, or it's not the worst thing in the world, but 500 milliamps, it'll take you a little bit of time to charge cell phones. And my Android phone, it won't even charge it. The phone just, yeah, it actually spends more power telling me to not use the charger. Um, that and yeah. The regular household charger that comes on it was 700 milliamp, and it's just a regular household AC adapter plug-in on it. Um, there's also worse things to have, but it takes forever for it to charge. And one downside that I had with it was when I would charge it, it would say 100%, but it would not actually 100% charge it. Even by the little display that it has on it, it would just never fully charge it. You let it sit for even 10-15 minutes, and it would no longer say it was fully charged. That said, it wouldn't operate to the full 450 amp jump charge. It progressively just wouldn't jump charge my car. And I know the first thing everybody's saying, well, 700 milliamp, you got to let it sit there and charge for God knows how long. I let it sit for almost 3 days, thinking, well, let me just let this thing kind of run its course, and it never got any better. One thing that I did is I just grabbed a regular, I think it was a two-phase, 12-volt, 2-amp. Uh, Electronics charger, plugged that in, well, fashioned a little plug for it, but plugged it in, charged it, and right off the bat it said it was not fully charged. I let it sit for an hour or two and then unplugged it, put my multimeter on it as well as ran the indication that it has on it, and it says it's fully charged now. That little AC adapter just would not fully charge it. So that was one downside, as well as having the 500 milliamp USB charger. That wasn't the greatest thing, but it, as a jump box, works really well as a jump box. The air compressor on it, it's a little slow, but it still gets the job done. I mean, especially for just having a cordless little box. Wow, that was a tangent. I didn't mean for that to be there. Anyway, so what I ended up trying to do with this thing is, Well, first things first, I wired it up to have a power distribution block for both the positive and negative side of it. It didn't have all of the power went straight down to the battery, which that's okay, but they were all unfused as well. So when you open it up, it was kind of just a rat's nest of everything going down to the battery. So I kind of cleaned that up, put a power distribution block for both the positive and the negative side. I added a 75-watt power inverter to it. It's not the most beefiest power inverter, but given the amount of battery that I have, I was going for more longevity as opposed to, you know, I want to charge, or you know, I want to run a skillet or something on it. My initial intentions were I want to run a lamp. I have some 60-watt equivalent LED household lights. Now, 60-watt equivalent, they actually run at 10 watts. And I, you know, plugged one of those in there, and I was able to get almost 5 hours out of it, just sitting there on. And that was at the point where I just got sick of it and turned it off because I figured 5 hours of running a light, that's pretty good. As well, I also ran some Christmas lights on it, again LED, and they ran again for about 5 hours before I just got sick of it and turned it off. So 75 watt, and I popped a little hole in the front there as well, and put a little switch on it so that I could just turn it on and turn it off. I added a little external hookup there so that I could hook up an external battery, charger, what have you. You could also do, one other thing I was thinking is making a receiving connector to go straight to a little 700-watt power inverter. Granted, 700 watt, running 700 watt on the 17 amp hour battery is probably not going to go for very long, but method to a madness for a later date. One other plan that I have for it at least is to, looking at batteries for it. So the 17 amp hour battery that is in it, it's not too horrible. Once I figured out that I needed a better charger for it, it actually lasted a lot longer on a single charge before going down to that 50% mark. One thing I've learned definitely from doing all of this, though, I have a engineer buddy of mine told me a couple good, easy to remember, or at least easier to remember, a couple rule of thumbs for lead-acid batteries. You don't want to drain it much past 50%. That's just mostly longevity and ease of charging the thing, for one, so it doesn't take for stinking ever, and two, just the battery will last much longer. So I'm not looking to drain it 100%. So that being said, one of the next things that I'm going to do for this is, I think XS Power has a 35 amp hour battery, which is about the physical 1.5 the size of the battery that's in here, and you double your numbers. So going from a 17 amp hour to a 35 amp hour, which is great, considering I only intend to, at the very most, drain it down to about half, which will put me at, again, 17 amp hour, but I'll at least be able to use the full 17 amp hour. So yeah. One other thing that I plan on doing with this, and I'm trying to look for the best bang for your buck, and by bang for your buck I mean the cheapest that my wallet will agree with, is solar kit. There was one that I was looking on Amazon. God, I can't remember what it is. Not the poly, or not the monocrystal, it's the polycrystal. Solar kit comes with the charge controller. I think it was $120. but it was 100 watt. Now, obviously, you get what you pay for when it comes to solar, or at least so far from what I'm learning. You do get what you pay for as well. Obviously, solar has to be able, you know, the effectiveness of the solar panel, you're not going to get a full 100 watts out of it. But I figure even if I get half of that, good rule of thumb is 1 watt for 1 amp hour. So I figure at the very least half, if the effectiveness of the solar panel is working at 50%, I'm still getting at least 50 watts out of it, which is still more than enough to charge this battery during the day from charging or from camping, and that's if I deplete it pretty far. As well, that also gives me a little bit more wiggle room to be able to you know, operate or use chargers, lights even. Granted, I don't know why I'd need to run a light during the day, but that'll at least let me have a little bit more wiggle room. Even at 50 watts, heck, even 30 watts, there we go. That'll still at least be able to charge the battery. The controller that I'm looking at, or at least one that I'm looking for, is one that has some sort of digital display. On this, it has a battery status indicator. It's not the most precise thing in the world, but it at least gets the job done. I'm looking for a little bit more, not really preciseness, but a little bit more clarity. And a camera that falls over. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty much the Stanley Fatmax in a nutshell. It, as far as what it was intended, the car jump box as well as the air compressor, they both work really well. I've used them a number of times, but I'm kind of going more towards camping material, extra battery source, charge cell phones to be able to operate during the night as well. I'm going to upgrade the battery to the 35 amp hour, and actually, even the more I'm thinking about it, I might go for the XS 22 amp hour, which is the exact same size and footprint to fit right into this box here, and then I won't have to print a spacer to go on the bottom to kind of cover up the hole that it makes. But the 35 amp hour is, I measured it out, and it's about 1.5 the thickness of it, so length and height of the battery will be the exact size still, but it'll just be a little bit thicker. And since the battery inside the box sits on its side, it would just be a little bit tall. The whole thing would be a little bit taller. So anyway, hopefully that was helpful to somebody. It's been a while since I've made a video, so definitely a little rusty at doing this again. So if you have any comments, hit me up at the bottom there. Otherwise, there's a link to the blog down in the comments there. I also wanted to show there we go. That's kind of what the internals look like there. So when you pop it open, you have the hard switch there for the jumper cables. These are the switch and the plug that I added in for the power inverter, which is this. That's what this is right here, is the power inverter. The air compressor. This right here is the charger for it. Like I said, it's just a little AC adapter that they just put in it. It's not switched, or at least it doesn't appear to be an actual switched plug. So it probably does its job, but I have an external 2 amp charger that did a much better job of charging it. And even overall with the jump box, it worked a lot better for me. Power distribution blocks are there. So, and then I kind of organized the wires a little bit. That's the power inverter. It's just a regular cigarette lighter power inverter. Nothing special. Basically, what I did is I just dismantled it and put and soldered a couple wires to the positive and negative side on the 12-volt side, and then I soldered a couple wires on the 120 side, which goes all the way up to the plug that's on the front of it. And that's just a picture of it with the Christmas lights running on it. And it just sitting there. So yeah. Anyway, there you go. Hopefully that was helpful to somebody. At any rate, I'll be 10-10 on the side. Thanks.